Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 371, recorded on June 10th, 2020. I am your host this week.
Wow.
I think we're 370.
Are we 370?
370.
Okay,
that's still an impressive number. Good job.
We can get that in post, right? Sure, why not?
Who's posting this?
Piece of cake.
Yeah, got it.
Live, people.
Live
okay,
to tape, baby.
Let's try that again. Yeah, for everybody, there is no post. So this is all going to be in the final thing. So it's 370, but it is June 10th. I got that part right, which it's really hard to keep track these days. Really easy to keep track. So I am Tony Schaefer, and I am your host this week in our journey of advanced technology, mobility, and sustainable energy. And I want to kick things over to my co-host this week, Mr. Russell Frost.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Greetings from the bottom left corner of America, where it is a sizzling. I'm waiting for the derision from Georgia McKenzie's face when I say a sizzling 92 degrees. Yeah, she's like, you wimp. Needless to say, in Southern California, we set a record yesterday in San Diego. It was 93. It's the first time since 1877 it had been that warm here. So just to give you some context, it's hot.
Wow.
I'm hot. I'm a lot irritable. I'm probably going to be a little hangry or something. I don't know. Really, what's the difference for you, viewers and listeners? Nothing. It's the same.
It's a normal day.
Yeah.
So my thanks to you.
Yeah, so while Russell goes off and gets a Snickers, for point counterpoint, I'm going to throw it over to our what? I can't find a polite way of saying the woman who's sweating right now. Georgia
She never
McKenzie.
sweats. She's always
She
cool.
perspires.
Whoa.
There's no
Darling.
sweat
Ooh.
anywhere on this.
It's those jeans, man.
I'm not even sure she's wearing pants, Russell. That's inappropriate.
I'm not.
I'm very dressed. Thank you very much.
Good enough. Okay.
It's called a dress.
Nice.
Of all the
I'm
jeans I need
standing
up there.
Jeez. Oh boy. All right. Better move on. So going from extreme hot to maybe a little cooler, I'm going to throw it up north of the border to our friend, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Well, you would think it's colder because, of course, I'm wearing a sweater, but my office is in the basement, and it's absolutely freezing in the basement. So upstairs, it's outside. It's almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So
No!
it's absolutely crazy. I've got both extremes in my house, but. Man, is it ever nice if you're outside and it's really hot and humid? You can come into the basement and everything's cool. It's sweater cool down here.
Mhm.
Nice.
Wow. I had no idea it was that warm up there today. Yeah, we're getting rain here in Chicago because of Hurricane Colombo or whatever the hell it's called. But actually, we had the hurricane that came all the way up from Louisiana into Illinois.
And I had to ask one more question. Just one more question.
Yeah.
Old people joke.
Yeah.
That's a Columbo joke for those who do not know.
Yes. Right before you walk out the door, you turn around and you have to say, just
one more question.
Just one more question. Okay, so heading over to the East Coast, I'm going to kick it over to our friend, Mr. Casey Green.
Well, it was 101 degrees here when we went out to do our grocery run and testing out Tesla firmware. So that's what we got.
I can't believe it is hot. It's okay. Thank you, Casey. I'm now going to do a weather check-in with Patrick. How hot is it in Portland?
It's only 78 degrees here, and it's beautiful, sunny, cool. It's awesome. But no one should move here, just to be clear.
Yeah, especially if you're from California. That's the
Spoken
one
like
thing
a true Oregonian.
Especially if you're ever going to protest in public.
Oh yeah, we do some protesting here in Portland. That's
You have some violent police there.
No,
Well,
we don't.
Let's be honest. It's largely Seattle PD kind of making Oregon look.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Seattle's making Portland look tame, but Portland's doing a good job on its own. I'm doing some ass whipping, which is crazy.
That's too bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly do love to protest, and that's I've said it before on the show. When George W. Bush was here, he called Portland Little Beirut because we protested so much.
Jeez.
Nice.
Yep, it's one of our nicknames now, Little Beirut.
Right, because Beirut's a city so well known for protesting.
Yeah,
not for violence, not for rebellion, protesting.
Peaceful protesting.
W wasn't known as the brightest bulb in the pack.
I think, is that where they threw the shoe at him? Was it in Beirut, maybe? Is that what he was thinking about?
Well, his nephew is trying to outdo him on that record.
Oh, yeah.
Well, before we get into our news, and speaking of protests and stuff, I want to, no one on the panel knows that I'm doing this, and we've often said, we've said many times, and especially during the hunker in place and the sequester and everything, we've said support your local businesses. And that is extremely important. Support your mom and pop. A dollar spent locally is far more important than a dollar spent at a national brand or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I've read that if you spend $1 locally, that it circulates at an average of 16 times in your community before it leaves. So just think about how many times that gets handed around and helps people.
Yes, and that big box store is most likely not going to sponsor your kids' little league and and whatnot. But things got even more serious with the rioting. I'm not even going to call it protesting. These were not peaceful protesters, but the rioters who burned down small businesses and looted small businesses and severely handicapped small businesses for no particular reason other than they just felt like doing it. So these small local businesses that were already feeling the heat of hunker in place and already losing money and everything now have had their livelihoods taken away from them because people who other people have described as thugs. I was going to pull up President Obama's quote. He's far more eloquent and wise than I am, but I forgot to do that. But now is an extremely important time when we start really helping those local businesses who have been affected the most by this. And I want to take it one step further because if you're in the Madison, Wisconsin area, Madison on May the 30th had riots and State Street saw it very severely. However, a friend of mine who's from Madison posted his father, I believe it is, his father, who runs Exhaust Pros in Monona, Wisconsin, or Monona Drive in Madison, Wisconsin, got a letter from concerned citizens because he has chosen not to call the police on one homeless person who seeks shelter on his property. So it's bad enough that we have the coronavirus, and it's bad enough that there's riots, but now people are attacking him for allowing a homeless man to seek shelter on his property. So if you're in the Madison area, if you have any car needs whatsoever, look up Exhaust Pros. And, because this is a person who cares about the fellow human being. This is someone who will reach out and make sure this homeless person is taken care of instead of calling the police to have them evicted. So watch out for these locally owned small businesses who really need our help right now. Do everything you can to help them out. And if you have to spend a couple extra dollars because the small business is a little more expensive than the massive bulk discounts that the big businesses can offer, do it. Like Patrick said, it's going to circulate in your community. It's not going to just go into the mothership in some other city or state or whatever, or some big billionaire's wallet. Shop local, help them out, seek them out, keep your money local, now more than ever. That's the end of my rant. If you guys want to jump in or not. All right.
Douche that would call the police for being kind to a homeless person also. That's the only thing I would add.
There was absolutely, to read the letter that was sent to this person because he was being kind to a fellow human being is insulting to human beings. The fact that somebody would even take the time to write that letter. Exhaust Pros in Madison, Wisconsin. If you're in southern Wisconsin, send your business there as much as possible.
It's kind of weird that'd be the first solution they came up with after what we'd seen in the last 2 weeks of their initial response. And while they're still wound up, let's call them out. But yeah, definitely support your local businesses, tip your cashiers, all that.
Yep.
Just be nice.
Yeah. Okay. So the end of my rant. I want to kick it over to Georgia, who is going to be talking to us about the pros and possibly mostly cons of autonomous driving.
All right. So this is about a study that was done by the UC Davis Institute of Transportation Studies. And I'm going to label this under, this is why we can't have nice things. People, the autopilot driving does not mean you can take a nap in your car.
Oh my God.
While it's driving.
Yeah.
Really?
It does not mean you can read. It doesn't mean you can play Sudoku or be on your phone. What the hell?
You turn it on, it says hold the wheel and pay attention.
Yeah, but the study shows that partially automated vehicles, people are already thinking to themselves that this is essentially, total recall, where you get in and you say the destination and the auto driver drives you. That's not how it works. We're not there yet. We're not even quarter of the way there yet. But
mine tries to kill me at least once a week.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe you have the more advanced version. I figure that's where we're headed to anyway. But I'm gonna kind of throw it out to you guys. What could be going on in people's heads here?
Well, I read this article when you sent it out, and there were a few things that bothered me about it. That it's preliminary, and yet they're getting this headline. And then when you read it, they said they interviewed 36 Tesla owners, and this was from a survey. And okay, 36 is a really small sample size to be drawing any conclusions. Self-reporting is inherently unreliable. And then some of the other findings in there were that it relieved fatigue during long drives. And yet, of course, that's not going to be headline grabbing as, things like people abuse automated driving systems and sleep at the wheel. So I don't know. There's still a lot of research that needs to be done. I absolutely agree with you that people need to be responsible. You are behind the wheel. Those are driver assist features. They're not take over and you take a nap features. And people need to understand the difference. It's not time to play Sudoku or be on your phone or read a magazine for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and they're most of them are constantly in flux. The Tesla system is even more in flux than the rest of them, but I don't know any of them that are actually static in function. This morning, or actually this afternoon, I was on the way to the grocery store, and my car did something brand new that's never done before. Normally, when it takes the exit for me, and I get ready to take over, and it randomly will put me in the wrong lane going straight, either the left lane or the right lane. And it did the right thing this time. It took me around the curve, but the paint wasn't very clear around the curve, so as it was going halfway around the curve, it decided it was going to then drive me into traffic. So my hands were already on the wheel, and I just stiffened my grip, and it steered into my hand, and it let go. But had I been like what this headline suggests, I would have been into traffic and T-boned somebody.
Is it just simply that the public is stupid?
Yes.
Like is it just that simple that someone gets in a car and says, "Oh, it steered for me today. It must be all-knowing, and I can now go to sleep." Like, is that the problem? That we are giving licenses to stupid people that don't know how to follow basic instructions?
I mean,
yes.
Mark America. Have you seen the guns we allow stupid people to have?
This is true. This is true. I mean, just last week we saw a Tesla Model 3 run through the top of a tractor trailer. Sorry, a big delivery box truck that was already laying on its side because the guy wasn't paying any attention while he was just in regular cruise control. He wasn't even in autopilot. I mean, come on, guys.
See, I don't even trust cruise control. I have it, and every time I give in to the urge to test it, no, I don't think so. I
used to hate cruise control. I do like adaptive cruise control on any manufacturer because it gets rid of that weird surging and where the car wants to run up the person in front of you. Because even if they're on cruise control, for some reason they just start slowing down and speeding up, and slowing down and speeding up. But you still gotta watch it. I mean, there's nothing about this that says Jesus take the wheel.
No, I can do cruise control, but I have never attempted the automated park. I literally that's my sticking point. But I mean, geez, I'm trying to figure out whether I want to do Patrick's point or Mark's point. But to Mark's point, I'll do Mark's point first. We really do have stupid people, but that makes me wonder whether we need to, or the manufacturers need to somehow come at the realization that their their pain point needs to be the stupidest person behind the wheel.
Tony, you can't fix stupid.
Yeah, they'll make it better.
You just can't do it. And if your minimum point is the stupidest person that owns your product, guess what? You got to stop selling your product altogether.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. How many times have we seen before any automation was out there, you be on the freeway and you look over to your right and there's some idiot steering the car with his knees because he's feeding his face.
Or reading the paper.
Some lady is applying mascara using the mirror above the car as they're driving in traffic. Yeah. These are just common occurrences on everyday freeways. Having autopilot or whatever you want to call it or any other aid is not going to fix the stupid that surrounds us all.
And I don't know what more that the manufacturers can do. I mean, all but one of them has given their product a name that tells even stupid people this thing is an assist. I mean, if you knew the definition of autopilot, you would also know that's an assist as well. But they all make sure you're they either have a camera watching you, making sure that you're not, like the Mercedes is making sure you're not sleepy. GM is watching your eyes. Tesla and a lot of others are making sure that you're touching the wheel physically. I don't know what more they could do. They've done, and I mean, it's past multiple layers of lawyers. I mean, the auto industry has some of the best lawyers out there.
Russell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Russell's hand is up.
Yeah.
Go on, Russell. He's bursting.
So, Mark's point is, in my opinion, probably the most important one, which is you can't fix stupid, and stupid people are going to misuse anything. That said, to Patrick and Casey's point, while this survey may be a preliminary thing, and while there may not have been a big sample, this is one of a number of surveys, a number of initial research. There hasn't been anything super extensive or super comprehensive, but there's been a number of these surveys and studies that have looked at what ADAS systems do to drivers, how humans react to that. When humans have a crutch, okay, which is what ADAS is, how do they use it? Do they use it responsibly or not responsibly? And hey, guess what? Back to Mark's point, a good portion of the people don't use it very responsibly. And that's an extra chance for them to eat breakfast, apply makeup, read the newspaper, flip off the driver behind them, whatever it is, take a nap, hit the bong, just, whatever's going on. This is a problem with human nature, and I don't know that there's a solution for that.
So the person who hit the car that hit the trailer that was flipped over, have you heard any additional news of who's to blame?
He said that he wasn't paying attention, and that when he saw it, he slammed on the brakes. So it sounds like he's admitting fault, which is rare and thankful.
Very rare.
How does the autopilot system miss a semi-trailer on its side across 2 lanes of the road?
Because that's not how they trained it.
Exactly. Still not trained
They
for
didn't
that.
train it to see something blocking the road that big. They didn't train it to see ambulances or fire trucks.
Something that big and flat could look like an overhead sign or
Overhead sign or overcast sky, and then when you look on the radar, it was full of a soft material, so it might not have given off the something big and metal is in the road. Because
how much you want to bet there's a team of engineers right now going through that data?
Well, I guarantee you they're adding this thing to the dojo right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it out here that we need engineers that can calculate in for the 27% crazification factor.
And that's what I like about almost all of these things having a connection to the internet, because they can be fixed as these things are discovered.
Yeah,
but
because
somebody's got to discover it first.
Yeah, 27% of an entire subsample is going to do something so stupid or crazy that we need to calculate that in.
And then once they do that, they're gonna do it again. And how the hell did they
once
do
you
this?
Once you get that in, you get another 20% that go beyond the first 27%.
Yeah, this whole thing reminds me of there was a comedian in the 80s, I don't remember who it was, who said, whatever product you get, you should read the warning labels. And why should you read the warning labels? Oh, not so you know what the warnings are, but because everyone on there is something that somebody did. If a medication says, do not take rectally, you know why? Somebody did that. If you get a new lawnmower and it says not to be used as a tree trimmer, somebody did that.
Yes. How many times? I mean, we've said it before. Like 90% of the laws are written for 10% of the population.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really need to not have, okay, I guess we do. Got to do that.
I guess that needs to be spelled out. Yeah.
So back on what the study said. I mean, personally, I don't find that my misbehavior behind the wheel has changed at all. I mainly because, like I said, the thing tries to kill me once a week. I have to be watching it to make sure what new it's going to try now. But I still have one hand on the sandwich, the other hand on the wheel. I may change the radio.
You're the guy with the knees on the wheel.
Yep.
No, I always have had one hand on the wheel, the other hand on the food.
I'm the one with the I'm the one with the knees on the wheel. I've mastered knee driving.
The funny thing for
conclusion, my technique of paranoid driving is probably what you need to follow.
Yes. There you go.
Be paranoid. I actually find using this stuff engages me more because I'm more interested in the technology and what it's going to do. So I'm paying attention just to see what the car's going to do. Yeah. Versus if I were driving, I would just be bored. So I engage that, and it engages my interest. So I find I'm more attentive, but that's anecdotal. So
how many times have you gotten someplace and been like, well, how did I get here? Like, what? I didn't see that new restaurant down the street. And with this system activated, I am just like Patrick. I am able to scan and search, and you just notice so much more stuff. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't even want to fully admit the number of times that I in college would stay up all night and then drive long drives and literally sleep past my exit.
Wow.
Not even going to admit that.
Not zoning out, sleeping. Wow. Yes, indeed.
No, yeah, literally waking up down the road. Yeah,
that was not with autopilot.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
No, that was in a 1973 Ford LTD.
That was Tony Pilot.
Yeah, that was no pilot. That was God take the wheel moment. Yeah, it happened more than once.
That brings up another point. I do wish that these things would automatically turn on whenever they saw that the driver was doing something just completely stupid. Like, this person is probably incapacitated. Let me at least keep it in the lanes, turn on the flashers, and summon 911.
I'm always surprised there's no alarm
on me.
Like, well, not to narc on you, but just to get you some help. I mean, like,
but like an alarm should go off to wake you up. Something.
Yeah.
Like,
like the airplanes, like terrain.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now I want to follow up on something that was last week. I had talked about the pricing of the RAV4 Prime was coming out and how excited I was because my wife really wants a RAV4 Prime, and I fully endorse that. Well, so this week in TechCrunch, I saw that the Ford Escape plug-in is being announced with very similar specs as to the RAV4 Prime. What's interesting is this is the 2020 Ford Escape plug-in, and I'm kind of surprised that I hadn't heard about this before, being that it's the 2020 model. But I'm just now in June of 2020 hearing about the specs.
Same.
And what they're saying is a 37-mile all-electric range before the engine kicks in, and they're saying the pricing is going to be right around $34,285. So $34,285 for the Ford Escape, which compares to the RAV4 Prime of $39,220. So it's $5,000 less.
Wow.
And so there's a couple of things, and unfortunately Matthew's not on the show tonight because he sent a lot of really good information in an email, and I'm just going to have to quote him on some of this, which I found was really interesting, and I was hoping he would be here to be able to talk through it. But it turns out that the Ford Escape, so we had mentioned, I think we mentioned last week or maybe in a previous show, the RAV4 Prime essentially looks like it has two Prius Prime batteries shoved together. So the two 8.8 kilowatt hour pack that is in the Prime gives the RAV4, that is in the Prius Prime, gives the RAV4 17.8 kilowatt hours of usable batteries. But the Ford Escape essentially is two of their Fusion batteries wedged together. But because Ford went with a smaller battery in their sedans, taking two of them and putting them together for the Ford Escape plug-in actually only comes up to I'm looking. I forgot what it said. 14.4 kilowatts. Thank you. And where this is particularly interesting is that in some locations, and it's Canada, incentives are based on battery size. So the RAV4 Prime's 17.8 kilowatt hours actually qualifies for $5,000, but the Escape, because it has a smaller battery of 14.4, only qualifies for $2,500.
Yeah, the cutoff was 15.
Yeah.
So here in the States, the cutoff is 16 to get all of it. So even here, they're throwing money away.
Right. But
and they still have on the table
$17 per kilowatt hour. So how much did you say the Ford pack was? How big?
14.4.
It's 14.4. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're only going to lose like $1,000, $1,200 versus
Ford still has all their credit, so they're pissing away money for the customer and for themselves.
That's true. Why not make it 16? Come on, round up a little.
Just put in two D-sized lithium round cells.
So you get two big packs and a couple of D cells.
Yeah, those are in the glove box.
Yeah.
They would have to, of course. Matthew's argument they would have to completely reconfigure the batteries in order to get a bigger pack, instead of just taking two existing packs and putting them together.
Yeah, but they should have known that from the beginning, and when they made the vehicle, thought of all of this and designed it, it would have given them a little bit more range. It would have qualified for incentives in all of North America. It would have been better all around. And yes, it would cost a little more, but if that gets you a little more incentive, that's a wash, and you get a better vehicle out of it. Why not?
Well, it makes me wonder, Patrick, and I'm glad you brought that up, knowing that the Escape plug-in is $5,000 less than the RAV4 Prime. Did they know this? Did they figure it would be easier for them to sell it for less money than to spend the engineering to get the bigger incentive? I wasn't in these meetings. I just don't know.
It has a lower sticker price, but the final cost to the customer is not going to be $5,000 lower because of the incentives that we just talked about.
True.
Hey, the Escape, when it started, the Escape Hybrid, Ford had licensed that technology from Toyota.
Yes.
Back in the early 2000s.
Yeah. I spoke to one of their engineers when that happened, and he said that they did develop it separately. but because it was so similar, they couldn't get around Toyota's patents in time to get to market, so they just paid up.
Sure, they did.
I'm just saying what the engineer said.
Right? Yeah, I heard that story as well.
Okay, I understand.
So, today, they're no longer licensing it. They have their own design. Is that true?
It's my understanding that they were licensing it while they did their own development, and they parted ways in the late 2000s, definitely before 2010, I believe. Okay. They parted ways. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that as a fact. Someone can fact check me, but I believe it's right around that time frame that they did go two completely different ways.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Russell?
Oh, okay.
In the back?
I'm just trying my new, ooh, call on me, teacher. So here's the thing.
Yes,
and cheers. Thank you. Oh, God. That hurts. Cheers to Ford for doing this. Okay. I don't want to say anything to dissuade them from making better options. All that said, similar price, similar specs. Why would you go with a brand new system from Ford over a tried and true system from Toyota? Why would you go with Ford, who's got their own reliability issues, versus Toyota, who in general is well known for having very few reliability issues? The delayed comments in Skype really piss me off sometimes. That's all.
He just typed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he just typed that? Thanks, Patrick. Thanks.
Well, okay. Let me. Well,
so that's the only thing I point out is cheers to Ford, but
exactly. No, I was gonna say I haven't driven the Ford Escape plug-in yet. I hope to be able to get my hands on a Ford Escape plug-in. I would love to see it. Let me just say that I absolutely love the Ford Fusion Titanium, the plug-in Ford Fusion. Their infotainment, their energy usage, their hybrid ability, their plug-in range. I love that car.
Okay.
I haven't driven the Escape yet. My wife has a 2010 Fusion Hybrid, and I actually tried to talk her into getting a newer model Fusion Hybrid because I loved it so much. If the Escape is as nice a car as the Fusion, maybe. But I would say that, for me personally, having driven a Toyota vehicle now for since 2004, so what is this, going on 16 years? I've really grown into the Toyota styling. I hate to say the Intune. Intune needs to be scrapped. But just the general styling and the sensibility that Toyota puts in their design compared to some other vehicles, I've just learned to like that. So unless the Ford Escape Hybrid is truly compelling, I'm sticking with the RAV4 Prime. But I haven't seen it yet.
So you're willing to pay that premium for the style and branding that you like?
Yeah. I suppose, yes.
You're a well-trained consumer.
I'm a well-trained consumer.
Most consumers are.
What would it take, Tony? What kind of price difference would have to be there for you to even consider the Ford over the RAV?
Of course I would have to see it first.
Yeah. Let's say it's on par with the Fusion that you like.
Mm-hmm. If it's on par with the Fusion, it would be a very tough choice. It really would be, honestly, a tough choice, especially for $5,000 less, even with the lower incentives. Same range, same form factor, and definitely if Mark is just throwing free money at me, then yeah, but American. Please, U.S. Sorry.
It's raining toonies on you.
Yeah, I still got that tuna you sent me, and quite frankly, I don't know what to do with it.
Now, for me, the question would have to be the reliability factor.
Russell's point is a good one. Yep.
I hate to say it, but Ford definitely has a reputation, and I don't want to take on the alpha version of anything they've done. I want to wait and go with version 2.0 or 4.0. But is it even numbered? Trek movies don't suck. So can we maybe wait until 2021 or 22 or something like that? Because if I was going to buy this, the fact that it's a Ford and the fact that, as Russell rightly pointed out, tried and true Toyota technology on this, that $5,000 savings at the list price without the incentives could be something I wind up paying out over time if it's just not a reliable vehicle.
And as much as I want to applaud Ford for bringing out a plug-in Escape, yeah, I'm still leaning toward the RAV4 because at least Toyota didn't scrap almost every sedan they sell in favor of large SUVs.
I want to say this though, that for the same reason that you're molded into the Toyota brand, this is because any car with a plug is better than a car without a plug.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. This is now an option for somebody who's molded into the Ford way. I mean, because they were never going to shift over to a Chevy because they're Ford people, and they weren't going to do a Toyota because that's one of them foreign cars. So
that's one of them foreign cars built in Princeton, Indiana.
Yes, indeed. So I mean, they call my USA Tesla a foreign car. It's made in California, but so now you've got a car with a plug that's still an SUV. that you also don't have to worry about the range anxiety. But just like we discussed last week with the RAV Prime, for the typical use case, they will use almost no fuel. And that's what we need right now because we are running up against a climate crisis, and anything we can do to pump the brakes is necessary.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. And
great
you know what?
if you're a Ford family. Awesome.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Casey. And perhaps we're taking the wrong approach on this, comparing two nearly identical cars. But if someone is trading in an SUV and looking for a new SUV, and you're exactly right, if they're a Ford family or a Ford fan, then yes, this is another option for them to go pick up the kids and sit in line at school, drive them to soccer practice, run their daily errands, and literally consume no gasoline.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When you're in those pickup drop-off lines, you're not going to be idling. Right. And that means you're not sitting in front of the school polluting. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, like to your point, Tony, though, if I wasn't brand loyal to either of them, I would definitely drive them both, and I would probably, if I had to have the backup of the gas generator, I'd probably be leaning at the Toyota because these are the only two really left that don't have all EV or the self-charging bullshit where they don't plug in at all. So, yeah. I mean, these are both great options, and I'm glad to see more choice out there.
Yeah.
Right. I have to wonder, I mean, did we fall for our own fallacy of, which plug-in is better instead of, like you said, any car with a plug is better than any car without?
Right. Yeah. The Ford RAV Prime Killer.
Right, exactly.
Killer. No, that's so dumb. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, occasionally we need to call ourselves out, and because we can be blind to these things. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was coming out of the grocery store today, I saw something. I said out loud, "Is that a Hyundai?" There was a Hyundai plug-in. I think it was a plug-in hybrid charging at the grocery store in front of us, where we were charging our car because we live in a multi-family dwelling and there's no charging. And I was like, "You go. That's awesome." Because even if it's got a 5-mile range, I think it's 12 or so. That's 12 miles. Like if they charge at both ends, they didn't burn any gas on that trip, and then they can still go to Nebraska. That's cool.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, speaking of Hyundai, I want to throw this over to Mark, who is going to talk about a Hyundai EV.
Yeah, so recently in the first quarter of 2020, Hyundai Kia, which same company, they reported some figures that their gasoline vehicles that they sell took an 8.9% of the global market during the first quarter of 2020. Okay? But next, they also reported that their EV sales during the same period captured a 9.9% of the global electric vehicle market. So, in retrospect, looking at the gas side of things and the EV side of things, their EVs gain more market share than the gas side. So this article from Electric is kind of talking about, is Hyundai at the tipping point? Are they starting to realize that they're making more gains on the EV side of things than they are in selling cars on the gasoline side of things? And, there's a number of great Hyundai products that are available EV, speaking one of the Kona, the Ioniq, and some other, the Soul and other offerings.
Nero.
So the Nero. So this is I guess, a representation, hopefully, of where they're heading towards, and where their success lies could be more on the EV side of things, and that may, of course, dictate how they steer their ship going forward.
Has Hyundai passed peak oil?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would an inflection point in the industry is when things get shaken up, and if they just continue to fight the same fight they have for gas cars, they're never really going to be more than 10% of that market. But now that things are changing, they have the chance to go after more market share. And the way that those numbers come out, it almost sounds like they sold more electric cars than they did gas cars, and that's not true. But it's all in market share. So it's better to have even a small percentage of a growing market than it is to have a larger percentage of a declining market. So there's two reasons that they should go after. They should definitely pay attention to that. It should definitely influence their strategy, because EV sales are growing and going to become a bigger part of the market. And this is their chance to go from just being someone who has 8 or 9% of the market to maybe 15 or 20%. And they could grow as a company by doing that.
That would also allow them in the States here, well, North America, to earn that premium branding that they go for worldwide. Like the Hyundai is the premium and the Kia is the entry level. If you're entering a new market, that gives you time to define what it is. And if you're there when the customers arrive.
Genesis here?
Yeah.
Is that there?
They
Genesis,
just spun Genesis off, what was it, 2 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah, so if they did a nice high-end electric vehicle in that brand, as well as the vehicles they have now, that could definitely be a cool product.
And that would allow Genesis to take off, because right now, if you go for premium, I mean, that's underserved market right now. There's really only one, and then several coming at that segment. And then if they just transition their affordable products over, people already know the name.
Right.
Yeah. And I've said every chance that I get, the Hyundai and Kia EVs and hybrids and plug-in hybrids blew me away every time I drove one. I have really very few, if any, negative things to say about those cars.
Yeah, and they've been making them super efficient, and you'd have to have an efficient vehicle that's designed to be a battery electric vehicle, because any extra weight anywhere means then you have to have heavier brakes, and that causes other things, and now you have reduced range. So efficiency matters a lot, because if you have even 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, that's the equivalent of like 3 gallons of gasoline in energy storage capacity. So you really have to use it efficiently. And electric motors are very efficient, but unless you're considering every step of the design to make it efficiently, it's going to bite you, which is what we've seen with Jag and some others, where they think, we can just pull this drivetrain out, slap that drivetrain in. No, it's not exactly that easy. You have to think about the entire vehicle design. And obviously Kia has, because of the efficiency numbers we've seen from them, they've been some of the best.
They're consistently in the top 10.
Yeah.
For fuel efficiency,
Yeah.
I think the Hyundai brand has always been under-recognized as a quality car. I mean, it's not the Yugo people, and they put a lot of work into the cars. They always look pretty good, and frankly, to my mind, like, if you're waffling between a Toyota and a Honda, I would also throw in the Hyundai, because they do build cars and they manage to last pretty well. They're very, very under-recognized, and I think that it's a perfect time for them to step out and say, hey, let's let the dinosaurs have the oil and charge forward and really start to make a good run for the money with Toyota and Tesla for EVs.
Yeah, and if you're the first owner, they have an incredible warranty.
Yeah. And if you're up in the air between a straight ICE car and a hybrid, the Hyundai Sonata is amazing hybrid car. You know, if you're just putting your toe in the water, that is the car to get. Amazing numbers and easy to drive and well appointed.
Yeah, and earlier I wasn't bashing hybrids. I was just bashing Lexus marketing. That is not a self-charging car. That is a gas car that is better than gas.
No, that's just bad marketing. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, all right. So I'm going to wrap it up with, I believe, our last article for the night, which has to do with Paris. Okay, not really Paris, but actually the...
I was going to say Paris?
Paris, Texas?
Paris.
They were all going to Paris. Yeah.
So the Paris Agreement on climate change, to which we all know and maybe we love, but the Paris Agreement, of course, reached out to a bunch of different countries and industries with agreements to try to keep carbon emissions down and try to keep our average temperature from rising was at 3 degrees Celsius. And so here's an article in Autoblog that also comes from Reuters. Turns out the world's 14 biggest car makers are pretty much just going to totally miss the Paris Agreement climate targets. And what's interesting is in this article, it says in order to meet the Paris Agreement, they would need to produce 43 million fewer ICE vehicles. 43 million. And we assume they would have to be replaced. They would either have to not sell them completely or replace them with full battery electric vehicles. Wow. I don't think that we have that capacity on the planet at this time. So,
what if they just didn't sell them because of C-19?
Well, see, that would be awesome. But that actually is another thing that came up, because even with the pandemic, and I've seen this in other articles, even with the downturn in carbon emissions right now, and we talked a couple of shows ago about how people are realizing, hey, look, I can see the stars. And hey, I can smell the air, and oh my God, I'm not smelling so much smog. We're still on par to miss the agreement, and a lot of people are really fearing what's going to happen when everything opens up again. So what's kind of sad is we had all these optimistic, lofty goals. And as we're reaching these different mile markers, as years go by, it's looking like we're not meeting them. And if we don't meet these goals now in 2020, it's really going to hit the fan in 2030, 2050, 2060.
Yeah, there was a mock documentary called The Age of Stupid, or The Decade of Stupid. And so it's shot in the near future where they're having these horrible impacts from global warming, and then they're trying to study when could we have changed this, and when did we know about it, and of course they find out that answer is today, now, and that we are aware that we will have horrible a future if we don't do something about it. We have the technology to do something about it, but we don't feel like it. And so this era was labeled the Decade of Stupid because of that. So future generations, that's what they're going to call us if we don't do something about it.
Well, I mean, when you hear all these politicians worldwide talking about, how fearful they are of refugees, climate refugees, that's going to be on a scale they've never seen before.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, droughts and floods will make people move. People
quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Internationally, locally, you name it.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw another article was talking about, Florida is going to flood. Move now.
Yeah. They'll destroy a lot of wealth too. I mean, look at how much we have built around real estate, and then once real estate floods, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Florida Keys will go. Manhattan Island.
Yeah, and what percentage of the American population lives around water? It's like 85% or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a stupidly high number.
Yes, it is.
Somebody did pointed it out that we have our border patrol here has a ridiculous range. Was it 100 miles?
Yes.
And then that covers 95% of the population because we are near water. And let that water come up, and guess what happens?
Well, it looks like Montana is going to grow pretty big. People are actually going to start moving into South Dakota.
Willingly.
Yeah, for the first time.
Not just prison transfers.
Is that where the re-education camps are going to be, or is that?
But the other problem with that becomes not just the influx of refugees, the wars for resources. I mean, water is critical. It's fresh water and food. I mean, because the arable land is going to change, and it's going to be a freaking nightmare.
Remember when we thought Waterworld was fiction?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, much like COVID-19, which people seem to think has disappeared, humans have a tendency to just go, you know what? I don't feel like it, unless it's actually happening to them.
Yeah.
And then they'll take it seriously, and they'll want you to take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sad that we only have that mentality of what matters to me right now. That's so sad.
And we do it to ourselves as well. I mean, not even just your fellow humans. Is like, oh, this future me, they'll deal with it later.
Yeah, it's like, no. We're cheery.
God, humans suck. All right, come on. Somebody's got to give me some good news here.
No, we're screwed.
My garden is fabulous. Come with me if you wish to survive the apocalypse.
That's the show title. We're screwed.
We're screwed. Okay, great.
Apocalypse Doom.
Yeah. Jeez.
I know, we're cheerful today.
Does anybody have one last thing? Please, somebody.
Let's see if I can find a cat.
Yeah.
There we go. Find a cat. That's a good idea. I like that.
Just a cat.
I approve of the flu.
Save us. Because as we know that as we kill ourselves, the cats are just going to end up eating us like eyeballs.
Here's the silver lining, Tony. Imagine when all the humans have died off, how beautiful things are going to be. All the animals will be playing and running around, and there won't be any.
It's so sweet.
The lion will lay down with the lamb. Wait.
See?
Well, after it eats it, yes.
Yeah.
No. It's really just us. We've caused all of this mess.
Yes, pretty much. Yikes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got. We have no uplifting ending here. So.
Wait. Okay. I'll.
Okay.
Let's see if it works.
Did Georgia just freeze?
No, I hope not.
Okay.
I can hear you. You lost your video. Go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have your video, Georgia, but we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Then I froze. Go on.
Sorry.
End on a downer. Fine.
Thank you, Skype. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for buzzkill. I do want to remind everyone that if you want to read all the news that we're reading, be sure to check us out online. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Leave us comments, suggest news items, whatever. If you use Flipboard, look for the What Drives Us Flipboard magazine. Russell maintains our Instagram presence, and I know he loves it. Yes. He uses Instagram like the 13-year-old girl he is. Patrick does an amazing job keeping our Facebook buffer filled, so you will be able to find at least a new article a day, maybe twice a day sometimes. Thank you, Patrick, for taking care of that.
Sure.
And thanks to Philip Barclay for helping me out with the Flipboard magazine. Always some really good, interesting stuff going up there. So seriously, if we've got nothing else, I'm going to start with some shout outs, and I'm going to start with Casey there. Casey, do you have anything what are you working on this week?
So on the editing deck, I've got a video of the Tesla update 2020.20.5. And then as soon as I was summarizing it into the camera, the screen pops up with a little yellow arrow saying it wants to download a new update. So I'm now doing my long-term analysis of 2020.20.12. It looked like it was going to be minor, but then, like I said, the car did something new today, where it took a turn where it should not have been able to. So I'm going to dig in and see if anything else hasn't been documented that we discover. So you'll find that at youtube.com/KCGreen. That's KACEYGREEN.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Mark, how are things up north?
Hot, but if you, unless you're in my basement, but
all Canada's now invited to your basement.
But if you're watching this show at this point and you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the YouTube channel. Also, if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? It's free. It helps us out. Why would you not help us out? So give us a subscribe, and that would be very much appreciated.
Thanks, Mark. A shout out to all of our audio listeners. I think it's awesome that people take the time to listen to us with the audio streaming options on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn. Are we on Slacker?
Yes.
Okay, and Google Play. So yeah, thanks to everyone who listens to the show audibly. Is that a word? Audibly?
Yes.
English is a plastic
Audibly,
language,
yeah.
and I get to make up words. So
say we all.
Patrick, what's going on in Portland?
I am going to say probably the least controversial thing I've ever said. Racism is stupid. There. And to that end, so I'm a member of the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association, and we are a 501c3. And as part of that, to get donations, some of the companies that donate to us, we have to make statement to the effect that we are equal opportunity membership, meaning it does not matter what religion or race or LGBTQ, sexual preference, none of that matters. And we've decided that we are going to now clearly state that on our website if that's our values and who we are. So that'll be up soon on oeva.org. Check it out.
Cool.
That is awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Georgia, welcome back. Yay! You have any shout-outs? Any last things?
Well, let me see if this will work this time. Although I brought it down last time. No.
Oh.
Did you find a cat?
I did find a cat, but I could not.
Oh, wait.
It's working.
Are you trying to screen share?
Yay.
Yeah, I was.
There we go. Well, you're screen sharing now.
Yeah.
You're sharing us.
There you go.
Oh, there's
Hi,
a cat.
Kitty.
There you are. I just wanted to end on a brighter, happier note for you guys. Odo with his most brilliant expression on his face.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. See, now I feel whole again. I got my fur fix.
Pets solve everything.
Pets do, especially cats. Yes. Russell, bring us home, please.
You're counting on me? You must be desperate.
I really am. I
feel so bad for you. As always, I want to thank Michael Mandering for our amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com and buy something for the love of all that is holy. Buy something. I want to, let's see. Well, social media, we're at What Drives Us. Facebook.com/What Drives Us, at What Drives Us on Twitter. Check us out both places if you like. Instagram, I just don't care. I honestly just don't care.
Give in to your inner JoJo Siwa. Just put some rainbows and unicorns all over that shit, Russell. Go for it.
I just figured out who that person was about 2 weeks ago. I never heard of that person before. And my wife and I are watching The Masked Singer, and they pull this head off, and I go, look, it's going, went, it's JoJo Siwa. And I went, who the living hell is that? And then I had like this whole educational lesson on, right? I know.
I still don't.
Right.
Yeah. But I do want to say, if there are any Black Lives Matters protests in your area, go do it. Go walk. Be peaceful, but show support. Just be there. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just be there to support a movement that is going to make life better for every human in the country and make life maybe livable for a portion of the humans that have otherwise had a pretty shitty existence. That's as political as I'm going to get. Thanks for watching. And of course, back to Tony.
As usual, we want to thank everyone who showed up tonight. I got Casey, Mark, Patrick, Georgia, Russell showing off the What Drives Us canteen that he has there. Thanks to all of our listeners and viewers for spending some time with us. Michael Mannering, like Russell said, make sure you visit him at manthing.com. Little moments, special moments, precious moments.
Small moments.
I would have found it eventually.
Small moments is a new album. Go buy it. Anywhere except CD Baby.
Right. Go buy it. So that's all we have for this week. Make sure you tune in or download next week and find out what drives us. Speaking of Michael Mannering. See you next week.
Bye.